Tonight we're going to do something a little different with question and answers. Mary and April we're going to have it in written form so the candidate can just read it. So if you have a question, raise your hand and one of those two lovely ladies will come and give you a slip of paper so that we can keep the questions moving a little quicker tonight. So with all of that information I've given you, I would like to welcome Mike Brown. He is running for Secretary of State, and I will let him take over.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Mike Brown. I'm running for Secretary of State of Kansas, and a couple of people that I wanted to recognize in the room before I get going too far into this. So my roots of my family come way, way, way back to Leavenworth County in the city of Leavenworth, Kansas. So my dad, Gideon Brown, and my uncle, Kirby Brown, are with us. And a close personal friend, and somebody you may well recognize his name, a former Lieutenant Governor of Kansas, Dave Owen. So I'm going to give you the real quick rundown on who I am. I'm more interested in getting to your questions than I am standing up here talking. So I want to hear what you've got to say so I can answer your questions and get you the information you're looking for about the candidate for Secretary of State. I grew up in Leavenworth and in Bonner Springs, Kansas, and graduated from Shawnee Mission Northwest. My family, we are builder, developer, realtors. That's what we do. So you move a lot. You go to a lot of schools. I have friends all over the place because of that. Graduated from Shawnee Mission Northwest, went to Johnson County Community College, went to Kansas State University, came back into business with my dad, and ultimately we were the largest home builder, developer, real estate operator in the Kansas City metropolitan area for multiple years in a row. Collectively, we built about 2,000 houses and commercial buildings. So that's kind of that part of the business and background. I'm a former Johnson County Commissioner. I've spent 4 years on the Johnson County Commission. I was way too Kansas to be a Johnson County Commissioner. And if you're shaking your head, then I know you know exactly what that means. I was way too Kansas for Johnson County Commission. So as we rolled through the 2020 train wreck, debacle, mess, I fought every Thursday at the commission meeting as not the only voice, but one of the few voices of what was clearly reason and sanity about shutting down our businesses and forcing everyone into masks and making you stay home and all the shutdown, lockdown. I was completely opposed to. At the time I made the case, it makes no sense to me. This makes no sense to me. Guess what the CDC said just last week? Oh, masks and social distancing didn't really have hardly any effect at all. So, ta-da! They don't know everything. Neither do I, but I could see that one as clear as day. To me, that was a no-brainer. There were some really great things I got to do as a commissioner, and for forever, my fingerprint is on Johnson County, and I feel very comfortable and very satisfied that some of the things that we got accomplished there were very good for Johnson County. In the long run, they're very good. Let me back up for just a second and say, today I walked in to the Kansas Secretary of State's office, which I hope will be my office in 11 months, and I filed officially to run for Secretary of State. Today was the day I was there. So I tell you that part to tell you, we walked across the street, Dave Owen and I walked across the street, and we saw several of your representatives, and I'm not kidding. They were in committee meetings, and they're working hard. They're up there going at it, and they're doing their part. They're pulling the plow, and they really are up there working. In fact, I was getting text messages on the way here about what time's it start. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it. So they may come blowing through the door. I'm not sure. I've heard different stories from different people that have talked to them today whether they're going to make it. So with that said, let me just jump quickly to a show of hands. Who in this room absolutely, with all their heart and soul, loves America? Who loves America? Who loves Kansas? Who loves our state? Me too. Who in this room thinks you are a domestic bad actor? Not one hand went up. I'm looking. Turn around and double check me. Not one hand went up. That's what your current Secretary of State said you are if you question the outcome of the election. And I'm here to tell you right now, you are not a domestic bad actor because you question your government or you question the outcome of any election. To me, the way I see it, there is nothing that is more quintessentially American than the fact you question your government and you hold them accountable and you question the outcome of an election. When I heard the words, those who challenge the outcome of an election are a domestic bad actor, I thought that can't be true. Nobody really said that. So I went and looked it up. And in fact, it was said by the Secretary of State in a Senate and Fed Elections Committee meeting on a recording and submitted in written testimony, of which I also have. Those are the words he used. Nobody raised their hand, they're a domestic bad actor. It's not okay for somebody to call you that. Certainly not somebody that works for you. That is not okay. As the Secretary of State, I will work with all 105 counties. That includes 101 counties where there is a county clerk, 4 counties where there is an election commissioner, and I will work with them and it will be respectful, and it will be forthright. It will be above board, and it will be pleasant. It will be when an election is running, every election official in all 105 counties will have my cell phone number when an election is open, able to call me day or night to find out information, to get a decision about how something's being done. But they shouldn't have to really, in the end, do a lot of that because there's a thing called election standards. That's 35 or 40 years of case law and decisions by previous secretaries of state, legislature, judges, a whole myriad of all of these questions and ultimately the decision that was rendered. When our current Secretary of State stepped into office, he disbanded, pushed them out, and said those election standards no longer apply to our elections in Kansas. So I, as a commissioner sitting at the dais in Johnson County, had the Secretary of State standing in front of me, to which I went, so where are we supposed to get guidance about how the elections go?
That's right.
You go to your county attorney. Now, I don't know, there's probably attorneys in this room, but I'm here to tell you that I have a lot of uses for attorneys. As a builder, developer, and with kids, you find out you need an attorney every now and then. But I don't want to go to them for election advice. I don't. They're entitled to their opinion, but the county attorney we had in Johnson County, I didn't go to him for any advice. I darn sure didn't want him coming forward and telling us how elections were going to be run. But that was the hand we were dealt. It's wrong. Just flat out wrong, not okay. And we've got to have election standards back in, and on day one we're going to do that. Additionally, raise your hand if you think unwatched, and when I say watched, by a person or by a camera, unwatched ballot drop boxes are a good idea. Those are going on day one also, because guess what? The legislature never approved those. The governor never signed off. Those came from the Federal Elections Commission under the Help America Vote Act, and they came with what was called best practices of what you're supposed to do. That included cameras when they're not watched. Johnson County right now has 7 drop box locations. That's just one of the counties. I've been to 20 counties now. I can tell you, at all of them, there is an election drop box out in front of every courthouse that I've been to. There is no camera, there is no light above it, there is nothing. It's in the dark, sitting at the edge of the curb in front of the courthouse. I don't know who put ballots in there. And guess what? At least in Johnson County, 5 of the 7 drop boxes, there is no video. There isn't any. I talked to the sheriff this morning. There isn't any. And the 2 that we have, it's so grainy you can't see anything. All you see is a silhouette walking up to it, a silhouette walking away. It's black and white and grainy. There's no way to know what happened. That's not okay. That's not leadership by the Secretary of State. That's not leadership, honestly, by Johnson County and other counties too. The drop boxes must go. They've got to go. That is a day one initiative of mine. I am also interested in minimizing mail-in voting. I know there's a lot of people in this room that probably actually like the convenience of mail-in voting. But I'm telling you, it puts a giant hole in the security net that we all count on, for which it's very hard to keep track of and account for all the ballots. But if we're going to keep some form of what they call no fault, which just means you just ask for it, that's how it is now. If you just ask for ballot, the ballot must have a watermark in it. That's not going to be, nothing I'm about to say is going to be cheap. But what's democracy worth? What is the outcome of an election worth? Every ballot must have a serial number on it, so it's traceable. You know where it came from, you know where it went. You know what the chain of custody is for every ballot. Those are a few of the things, and I've got a long list, and I won't go through all of them. Some of it is on the cards that are laid on the table in front of you. There is a website on there, and the business cards I have in my pocket. If you didn't get one of the bigger cards, I'll get you a business card. It's got the web address. You can see all kinds of things about the campaign, the things that we want to do as Secretary of State. I love my country, and I love my state. And I want to know for a fact, without doubt and without any reservation, that my vote in Overland Park in Johnson County, Kansas is exactly the same value as Alan Townsend, my campaign treasurer in Goodland. Not more and not less. I want to know that my vote counts exactly the same as yours. And right now, there's absolutely no way to know that. In effect, and not in reality, but possibly, there are up to 105 different elections in Kansas. A lot of the smaller population counties share county attorneys, so 3 counties might have 1 attorney, so all 3 counties have the same opinion about how elections should be run. But it's not hard to fathom that there are 85 different elections in this state. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't work for me. That's not how I want my state to be run. The last thing I'll say on initiatives for the Secretary of State's office. The current Secretary of State has done everything he can to give away what's called prosecutorial authority. That's a really fancy word for saying, if you cheat, I'm coming for you. He didn't get rid of it. The Attorney General wouldn't accept it. It still lies within the Secretary of State's office, and I do mean this. If someone cheats in elections and I'm Secretary of State, I'm coming for you. I'm not playing. We're serious. So, with all of that said, I'm really way more interested in hearing questions from everybody. So it looks like we might have a couple, at least. So if these fuel more questions, I hope it does, because this is my favorite part. So one question is if you were serving as Kansas Secretary of State in 2020, what would you have done differently? Everything. We wouldn't have ballot drop boxes. Those wouldn't be there. I would not have accepted the money that came with it. I would not have accepted money from Mr. Zuckerberg and Facebook. I would have said no. The list goes on and on. I mean, it's not an overstatement to say I would have done virtually nothing the same. Short of what is statutorily required to be done as Secretary of State, I would have done many things, if not everything, different. How it's being done is not being done effectively, and in my opinion, it's being done wrong. Are you familiar with voter fraud in Wisconsin? So let me see here.
I'll help you out there.
Yeah, help me, please.
We've got 158,000 128-year-old voters voted in Wisconsin in the presidential election. 80% of them were for Biden, and 20% were for Trump. And they were counted after 4 a.m. on November 4th.
Completely wrong. 100%.
My point is that happened in every state
Yes.
in the union.
It
That crossover time. Trump won with 440 electoral votes. And Biden should be gone. Period. Thank you.
This probably won't come as a surprise to anybody, but did you know, and I think I've got my stat right, so give me a little bit of levity if I heard it wrong, but I believe there were 13 people in the state of Kansas who voted in 2020 who were over 200 years old.
Whoa, we got the record.
I went and looked it up. 108 is the oldest living person in our state right now. So pretty hard to fathom that somebody 200, much less in the teens, all showed up and voted. That just simply could not have happened. So there are 4 dates on the calendar that are the least likely, if you are a Kansan and born in this state, the least likely dates that you were born. Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and the 4th of July. Those are the 4 least celebrated birthdays in Kansas. Do you know what the #1 date of a registered voter, and I mean all registered voters, the #1 birthday of all registered voters in the state of Kansas is? New Year's Day. It's the least likely day for anyone in Kansas to have been born, but it is the most recorded date for registered voters in Kansas. Now,
January 1.
there's something wrong there. There's something really wrong there. There's something way off. Okay. What county election officers failed? Which counties can you prove that have election fraud? So a couple of things, thank you. So a couple of things. I'm a former Johnson County Commissioner running for Secretary of State. To answer your question of exactly what fraud was where and who did it and how they did it, and I don't have the answers to all of that yet. But I just laid out a couple of points, and that's just a couple. I mean, there's a long list. Who listened or was at the hearing, the Kansas State and Fed election security integrity hearing last Tuesday? Was anybody want to listen to it or hear it? I listened to it. It went on and on with facts, just like I laid out for you about January 1st birthdays and 200-year-old people voting. And it went on and on. So there's much. There were many facts laid out in that hearing that everyone needs to bring themselves up to speed on. We will be assembling a breakdown of all of those statistics, and we'll put them on our website, which if you have it in front of you, it's Mike Brown, FOR, 4kansas.com. What is your stance on bringing in or resettling illegal aliens and refugees into Kansas, especially in the dark of night? Okay, wow, that's a softball. So, thank you, whoever's put that up here, because, wow, I got that one. So, as an American, there's nothing that makes me more proud than that people want to come here, and that they do come here. They come here the right way. They go through the process that you're supposed to go through, and they come here. I love that. I love that about America. I honestly believe that makes us the strongest country on earth. That's why we're the superpower, in my opinion, on the planet. It's that very thing. What is not okay? You cannot say, I am all about security in my home under all conditions, but the back door standing wide open, just let yourself in and out. Just let yourself take whatever you want. Do anything you want while you're here. It is, in my opinion, it couldn't be a less American thing for a president of the United States to do than completely ignore a border. Especially when we seem to have a lot more interest in what's going on overseas right now on their borders with Russia and Ukraine than we do about the Mexico-USA border. That bothers me a lot. I told you earlier, I love my country and I love my state and I want to share it, but I want to share it the right way. I want the people that come here to love it like I love it. That's it in a nutshell. So as a former Johnson County Commissioner, did you certify the 2020 election results in Johnson County? And the short answer to that is, yes, I did. I also certified my loss in that election. Because what they presented to me was a list about the count. This is the count, Commissioner, this is what they were. And as a Commissioner, that's the information that you have in front of you. Yes, I did. If I knew then what I know now, I would not be voting to certify that election. But you can't go back in time. You can just, you learn from it and you go forward. Johnson County staff at the time presented much of that, the votes in front of you. They just put a list in front of you, stapled together with page after page, 25, 30 pages. Here you go. You got about a minute, and then we vote on it, and away you go. So that's how it worked. Again, I would do it very different if I had a chance to do it now. The fact is, in life, you can only learn from what you did wrong and do it better the next time. You don't get, very rarely in life do you get a chance on this planet to go back and redo things. I wish I could do that different, but that's not the case. What are the perils and negatives of the Dominion voting systems? Please describe what system does first. I'm not sure what the last part means, but. So when it comes to the Dominion voting machines, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is in the middle of an investigation right now into voting machines. And it's actually, in Johnson County, it's the ES&S, which I don't want to get off in the weeds. It's another company that makes voting machines. They look a whole lot like and function a whole lot like Dominion and 3 or 4 other brands. Dominion is a brand, they're a company. It's like a Coke or a Pepsi, which do you want? County picks what they want. The Dominion systems, there's too many questions around it for it not to be further investigated. There's way too many people have asked questions. To me, that needs to be looked at. We've got to know more about what's going on with that. There are also questions about the ES&S machines. And quite candidly, I've heard questions about every brand of voting machine that's out there, all of them. That every one of them has possible flaws. So, my answer to how do you fix that, Mike, if you're the Secretary of State, how do you fix that? Well, if what it takes is to go back to paper ballots, and it takes 4 or 5 days to get election results out, but they're accurate, then that's what we need to do.
Go for it.
That's very complicated, it's time consuming. We're all going to have to be incredibly patient because there are going to be some lines at the polling locations. When people have to stop and fill something out with a pencil and have it explained to them over and over, it's going to take time. What's democracy worth? Yes, sir.
I wrote that question. So in other words, these brands are the software is easily manipulated.
That is everything I'm hearing, and that is coming from people who know all about it.
So that's a threat to our republic.
It is. I completely. If that is true, and those machines can be manipulated in any way, that is a threat to our democracy. In fact, by definition, if you go look it up, it's technically a coup. That's attempting to overthrow a government. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Are there other questions? Those are good ones. So, do you have?
No, I'm not sure about this because I thought I read it and I thought I even saw the Constitution. I can't remember where I saw it, and I'm not sure if I'm right. It has to do with Mike Pence, on January 6th. They say he could not reverse, he could not decertify the electors. That's very true. He could have, I'm sure I read it someplace incredible, he could have delayed it and then sent back to the states, and they could have looked at him again and then sent it back. Right, is that true? Do you know? I think
that is my understanding that that could have happened.
That's what I thought.
The argument on the other side was to pause it at that point and send it back would have been massively destabilizing. I'm not saying that that's a good excuse. That was the excuse. We can't do that. It's going to destabilize everything. If we say all the elections are in doubt, Pandora's box swings wide open, the universe flips inside out, everything goes haywire. So that I know that several of the voting machines, back to the question about the voting machines, several of the manufacturers sent emails to secretaries of state, and I believe it was to 16 of them, in late October, and said, in fact, the machines can be manipulated. We are concerned about this now. One Secretary of State, and I don't believe it was ours, and I'm not being coy, I don't know, but I read it, but it was redacted, I couldn't see who. But one Secretary of State said, well, then we're just gonna go forward and I'll certify it, but I'm not ever voting to certify another election until we straighten it out. Now, if that actually got said by a Secretary of State, that's crazy to me. If you are an American and you are a patriot, then you put your foot down and you stop where you are and you say, this is not acceptable, this is not okay, and I don't care. It's okay with me that everybody doesn't love it, that we're gonna have to go back and revisit it. We're gonna have to go back and recount. We're gonna have to go back and re-vote if that's what it takes. But we've gotta go back. Certifying an election for the simplicity of just saying, there, I did it, unacceptable by any Secretary of State. Totally unacceptable.
Teacher. I'll ask you. Are you prepared, when you get to be Secretary of State, bring charges against Fauci, Collins, Datchik, per the packages that Dr. Malone has prepared, to place them under arrest for what they have done in this whole debacle of these MNRA shots?
So in disclosure, I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. I never wanted to be an attorney. And thankfully, that's not the path my dad and mom put me on. I'm not an attorney. So I don't know all the details of everything trust me when I say, I watch the news, I read voraciously. I know what's going on in the world and around us. And I recognize the doubt that goes along with Dr. Fauci's name and several of the other names that you just said standing up here. But I don't know all the facts of every piece.
I will send you the package.
Please.
We sent them out to every Secretary of State in this union, and yet none of them have had the courage to get their lawyers on, go take them down to what they have done with the Chinese government, the U.S. government, University of North Carolina, the guy by the name of Bright, building this crap that has infected this nation and the world. I will send you
Please
that.
do. Please do. I would like to read that. Thank you. Thank you. Just as a current event of something that happened, the Johnson County Board of County Commissioners were served by 3 different people, every commissioner individually, and the county by 3 individuals in a suit yesterday, where the people that filed the suit are claiming damages as business owners for the shutdown. I will tell you this, I'm pretty sure there's some nervous people in Johnson County government right now, because if that flies, that goes, that's a problem. That's a problem for every county. But Johnson County's got a big problem.
Are you gonna hang around?
I am going to hang around. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you so much for having me. Again, Mike Brown, Secretary